Hello, everyone. My name is Amanda Claire, and I am the Marketing and Communications Specialist for Education for Children and Youth experiencing homelessness in Region 3. I'm here today with Liz Fortner.
Hi, everyone. My name is Elizabeth. I am also the Marketing and Outreach Specialist for Region 3.
And today we will be talking with Michelle Siruc. Michelle Siruc has served as the confidential secretary at Mifflin County District for almost 9 years and supports several of the administrators with federal programming, nursing, curriculum, and professional development. She has also served as the district's homeless liaison. She works closely with building secretaries, school counselors, and social workers to identify homeless students and coordinate all necessary services. She also provides annual training to the staff and education to local community groups. She graduated from Bellefonte Area High School and Penn State University with a bachelor's degree in human development and family studies. Today, we will be talking with her on McKinney-Vento, I Will Be Your Voice. Welcome to the show today, Michelle.
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. We're so glad to have you. We heard you have quite the impressive background in your time as the liaison, and we wanted to talk to you a little bit more about that today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. When we talked prior, you told us that you had worked with the staff to make them more aware of the McKinney-Vento Act. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what that looked like?
Of course. So each year, I make sure to offer our staff some sort of training. How we do that in the district and have been doing that, we assign everyone to a module through a program called Vector Solutions. It's like an online warehousing that a database that has different professional development sessions on there. And we have everyone from our teachers, paraprofessionals, custodians, maintenance folks, our secretaries, pretty much everybody. We have them complete a training called Students Experiencing Homelessness, Awareness and Understanding. So that's something that gives them an overall basis of the McKinney-Vento law and everything that's required that we offer our students to make sure that they have access to the same educational services as other kids. I also make sure to present at our yearly new teacher orientation day. So that's where we have several administrators come in to welcome our new staff, and they allow me to come in and give a brief little overview of McKinney-Vento. I usually share some materials with them, and it's kind of nice too, just because those new folks get to put a face with a name. So whenever I'm sending them emails throughout the year, they're not kind of like, who is this that's sending me all this information? They can hopefully remember me from the beginning of the year. Throughout the year, especially at the beginning, I try to send out some tip sheets to everyone too. And they're specific to the department that each person is in. So if you're a teacher, you're going to get one that has specific tips on how you can best interact with kids who are experiencing homelessness. If you're a custodian, that's going to be a little different. How, you might not be interacting with the kids as directly, but some different things that you can look for if you're, maybe encountering a kid in the hallway to help with identification and, helping them get services. And then I also try to just share out different professional development opportunities throughout the years. They come in through my email. If our regional liaison shares a training that's coming up, or maybe the state is sending out an email to say about some sort of training, like a webinar that's going to be happening, I try to share that out with the specific staff that it might pertain to, just so they have that opportunity to get some more knowledge.
Well, that's awesome. And it sounds like you're very extensive with your help to everyone in the district. You mentioned that you do tip sheets for the different faculty for each one. Have you created those yourself?
No, actually, I've gotten those from our regional liaison in the past. Whenever I was first starting in the position, I was trying to think how I could, best explain it to everybody. And she was actually able to share those with me. So that's been a nice thing just to send out to everybody each year that they have, just as a, refresh. And it's especially helpful too for like our transportation folks, because in our district, they're not our actual employees, they're contracted services. So it's a nice, easy way, since they're not doing that online training that we have all of our staff do, it's a nice way for our transportation coordinator to send that out to the bus contractors and say, here, please take a look at this. Because oftentimes the transportation folks are the ones that may pick up on the homelessness to begin with. If they see a kid not on the bus regularly, or maybe they're usually at the bus stop, but lately, like mom has been driving them to the stop, just noticing any sorts of differences like that, that they can kind of pass along to us and we can investigate from there.
I love how knowledgeable you are and how
Right?
in depth. Yeah, isn't it great how
Yes.
invested she is and passionate? I really appreciate that. I
And
mean,
it truly reflects from how you're responding to the questions that we're asking you. You can just hear it in your voice. You're not just like so cut and dry. Well, this is what I do and this is how it's done. And you can hear that you're actually passionate about the work you do.
I guess that helps, being a little more type A, or having that having some anxiety, I guess helps in that sense, that I want to make sure I cover all my bases, I don't miss anybody, want to do everything I can. I've always been a bit of a perfectionist, so I try to go. I'm probably a little overboard sometimes with people, that they're like, oh, another email, but I just want to put it out there so everybody knows as much as they can.
Hey, our students could use a little bit more of overboard. So that's okay.
yeah, that's what it's all
It never
about.
hurts.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're a perfect example of being someone's voice. So we appreciate that. And I know you've done community outreach and even gotten some cool local news. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so initially when I came into the role, I think it was like not long after I started, we had another homeless liaison in the district, and then whenever I started, they kind of were reshifting some responsibilities, so it came over to my office, and I was like, I don't know anything about this sort of thing. So I had gone to the state conference, and I remember they were doing the award ceremony, and one of the gentlemen that was being given the award at the time for Advocate of the Year, they were highlighting that he had started a supply pantry in his district, which I thought was a really neat idea. So I thought, I'm gonna try that too, see what we can do, because at that time, it was almost 9 years ago, they were still really trying to build up the homeless awareness week and wearing red, things like that. So I thought, well, that would be a kind of a neat awareness event, try to get people involved. So I had approached our teachers union to ask them, they kind of have the rights in the district as far as setting dress down days, like they'll do a dress down day once a month, I think, generally, and they'll collect money, like, in exchange for $5, you dress down, they usually give the money to some sort of charity. So I'd approached them and said, oh, can we do a dress down day for Homeless Awareness Week? Said, yeah, that would be fun. So I started with that, asked everyone to wear red, of course. And I also asked staff and students to get involved and said, hey, I'd like to start this pantry. Please consider donating toiletries, your shampoo, conditioner, lotion, toothpaste, toothbrushes, all that good stuff. School supplies, your pencils, folders, all those sorts of things. And it ended up being a really great success. And I think a lot of that success was due to the fact that one of the teacher union representatives, she's actually like their communications chair. She approached the local newspaper and they ran a story on it. And from there, it really exploded because, of course, all the local folks read the paper. And I just started getting tons of phone calls from people saying, I didn't even know about this. I didn't know there is homelessness in the county, because Mifflin County is very rural. And of course, as a lot of people know or may not know, with rural homelessness, you don't typically see it. When most people think homelessness, they're thinking of people out on the street, living under bridges, sleeping on sidewalks, things like that. In rural communities, families tend to be pretty close together. So most often we're seeing people being doubled up, meaning that they're living with another family member, or sometimes multiple families in one household. So people don't often see it. So that was really how it took off from there. And people, as they were calling for more information, they were like, well, I'm part of this church, or I'm part of this service organization. Can we help? And they just started sending in monetary donations and supply donations, things like that. It was also really neat too, that same communications chair with the teachers union. She actually was able to contact PSEA, the Pennsylvania, I feel so bad. I can't think of what the acronym is for it. The Education Association, this at the state level. And they run, I don't know if it's like a monthly, bi-monthly magazine called The Voice. And they actually included our supply pantry efforts in one of their issues. So that was pretty neat that it got to be showcased across the state as well. And then another time we had a local radio station approach me. They wanted to do an on-air, clip about it. So that was another great way to get the message out there locally. It even went beyond locally. Actually, I found out later, my former supervisor at the time, she was from the Huntington area, and her mom lived out and around that area. And she just happened to be listening to the radio that day and heard the broadcast, and later said to her daughter, my former supervisor, oh, I heard your secretary on the radio today. That was really neat. I didn't know anything about that. So it was pretty cool to hear that, it went beyond the local community. It went, the next county over, and of course being in that magazine statewide.
And you mentioned that you have built these closets, that they were sort of there a little bit before you came into it, but you've just expanded them like crazy. It sounds like it could be a logistical nightmare.
Yeah,
How do you handle that?
It was a little overwhelming at first because when I, started with this dress down day and asking for people for donations, I thought, oh, we'll get a couple shampoos, whatever, just a few things. It exploded. Like from that news story, from the radio broadcast, we just had people reaching out like crazy. I mean, we're really lucky. We have a really generous community. So tons of churches, tons of service agencies locally, and just random private citizens that were just sending me a check to put in our discretionary fund. One girl, even, I think that first year, I think she had collected a bunch of things and was planning to take a trailer full of stuff down to the south. And I think there was a hurricane at the time, and they were going to donate all this stuff through their church down to the folks down there that were experiencing the hurricane. I don't know if she missed the window or what, but she was like, I think this would be a better option, like just to give it to folks here locally. So she brought a whole trailer full of stuff for us, which was awesome. It was overwhelming at first because I was like, what am I going to do with all this stuff? Because my office is here in our administration building, so we really don't have a lot of space. I did have a closet here that used to have our office supplies in it. I was able to move that out. Our maintenance guys came in and actually built shelving for me and hooks to put like the jackets and the book bags and things like that in. Initially, when I had envisioned the pantry kind of taking off from that advocate that had made the pantry himself before, like he and his pantry, I guess he had brought in a chandelier and actually had kids come in and like try on clothes and really try to make it special for them. So that's what I envisioned initially. I wanted kids to be able to come in almost like a grocery store, have things lined up all nice and neat for them to pick out the scent of shampoo they like, their color of toothbrush they want, to try on clothes. But then after initially thinking about that with our administrative team, they were like, I don't think we have quite the space to have it all lined up, item by item. And they were right. We just had boxes and boxes full of things. And I think it would have been difficult too, to try to find ways for the kids to come in, pull them out of school, their individual school buildings to come in. So we eventually just, made the shelving, got some nice plastic bins, had everything in there. And then what I would do is I would ask our school counselors to check in with our families on a monthly basis to see if they needed anything in particular. I created a supply sheet that just had, toothpaste, coat, everything you could think of what they might need, just to give them an idea of the sorts of things we had, so that they could check off, yes, I need a toothbrush, I need shampoo this month, I need soap this month. Counselors would get that to me. I'd go in my closet, start picking things out, and then would send that to them at their school buildings through our inter-office mail. And then since we initially did that, we've since expanded it now to our school buildings. Receiving the American Rescue Plan money has been really helpful because we've actually, with that extra money, we've been able to have each school building set up their own individual pantry. So they were able to buy shelving, their own plastic bins, whatever way they wanted to store things. And then I've since been able to move most of the supplies out of my office into each of their buildings, which has been really nice for the kids, especially because it's all right there. They can, quietly go grab whatever they need without drawing attention to themselves. It's right there versus, till I would get a form from the counselor, get things out to them. It could delay the process a little bit. So this has been nice to have it all right there for them.
Michelle, I know you mentioned with the ARP funds, which obviously has been a blessing to many, I'm sure. Now, do you feel that after ARP, will this continue? The supplies, the closets, things like that. Is that something that is going to sustain after ARP?
I mean, we definitely plan to continue on with it. I think we will either have to definitely increase our fundraising efforts, or we're going to have to pull back a little bit on the amount of things that we offer to kids, or maybe set a monetary limit for each kid. Having our supply, I think we received about $72,000 in ARP funds for our district, because the last several years we've been identifying at least 100 kids that fit the definition. So it was a really nice allocation. So this year we actually kind of switched up how we do things. In the past, we were having our school counselors doing it, with, in addition to like the ARP funds, the ESSER funding that we've gotten as well. We were able to hire 2 social workers in the district. We actually have 4. 2 of them focus on, therapeutic stuff. The other 2 are more like case managers. So they are actually the ones now who are reaching out to our kids on a monthly basis to find out what they need. And we've just kind of, since we've had the money, we don't really put a limit on it. Like every month, you need more shorts this month because you just grew out of yours. No problem. We'll get that for you. So we've been able to, I think we've spent probably $6,000 this year buying things for kids. Now we're still, of course, collecting donations from other folks. So, I mean, we still have that to offset the costs eventually. But I think once our ARP funds dry up, we probably will have to pull it back a little bit, or just start hitting the community a little more for donations. We've been really blessed so far that I haven't had to go knocking on doors or anything. Folks are just coming to me, which is really nice. Just randomly sending checks, randomly dropping off gift cards, things like that. So I think I will have to step that up a little bit in the future years just so we can keep this going for the kids.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's amazing that you have the backing of the community.
Yes, people are so generous here. It's been really great.
And you've made so many community partnerships along the way. I mean, that's one of the things that I think is really impressive, is how many different parts of the community have come together to work on this. How has that helped you with the kids? Has there been community partnerships that have helped facilitate making things even better for those students who've been identified?
Oh, absolutely. So, like I said, it's a lot of church groups. They'll randomly call and say, oh, we heard about this issue in the county. We try to rotate like what our missions are that we do every month or throughout the year. And this year we want to help you. So they'll periodically check in to say, is there anything specific you're low on? So I'll check with our counselors, social workers to see, what's your pantry looking like right now? Are you low on shampoo? You need toothpaste? What is it that you need? I'll send that out to the churches and then they'll say, okay, well, we'll collect stuff and we'll drop it off. Okay, great. So we have that. We have just local businesses and things that have seen everything going on. So I'll periodically get a call of, we want to do a coat drive around Christmas right now, around the winter time. Can we get you some things? We even had 2 businesses. One is a local bar, actually, and the folks who work at Walmart, they decided they wanted to start getting Christmas gifts for kids every year. So that's been really nice that, we find out what the kids need, have them give us a few items on a wish list. We pass that information along anonymously to those folks, and they get stuff and bring it in. And they're not shy about buying stuff for them. I mean, some of the kids will say, oh, I want a PlayStation, I want a scooter, I want a bike. They've bought that stuff for them. Like, they are extremely generous. They've bought those PlayStations, they've bought bikes, they've bought basketball hoops, like, just went over the top to make sure that kids could feel like any other kid, that their situation isn't going to hamper them from having a nice holiday.
I love
And then
that.
yeah, beyond that, I mean, we've worked with our local human service agency, Mifflin Juniata Human Services. They send us a monthly food calendar. So they actually have it spelled out. Like, if you want to go get a meal today, this is the church you need to go to. If you want to get a food box every month, this is the place you need to go to. So they send that to us. I get that out to our counselors and social workers, and they share that with our homeless families. And we share it with everybody. I mean, we put it on our homeless portion of our website, but I tell our counselors, secretaries, share that with anybody who's in need. Like, we don't have to just limit ourselves to kids who just fit that definition, because many, I'm sure, are on the cusp of, being identified. And it's been nice to, through federal programs guidelines, we hold this quarterly meeting called the Local Advisory Council. So we meet, we have a lunch with everyone. We kind of run over, review our federal programs. So we talk a lot about, how much our Title I allocation was, how much money we received in the different ESSER funds, and how we're spending it. But I also get a chance just to share that information about homelessness with folks. I tend to tell them, what our updated number of homeless kids is, how many are still actively experiencing homelessness, tell them about different initiatives we're doing. Like, when it's around Homelessness Awareness Week, I tell them what we're doing, what sorts of supplies we're asking for. And most of the folks that come to that meeting, they're all different service agencies. So we have like the local Tri-County Drug Abuse Network there. We have the Human Service Agency. We have a lot of parents that come as well. And one of the parents, she's run for school board a few times, and she has like her own Facebook page, just trying to keep parents in the loop of what's going on in the district. So she's been really great at sharing that information out to parents that way as well.
That's fantastic. I mean, I'm impressed with your efforts, but your community as a whole is commendable. I hope that other areas and other communities are hearing this and taking it as, incentive to try for something similar. And I know that you have other students that help with this as well. Can you tell me a little bit about how students are helping support their peers?
Yeah, so one event in particular I'm thinking of this past winter at that local advisory council meeting. I think it was I don't know if it was at the beginning of the year. One of the ladies who attends, she actually works for the local communities that care. They kind of implement the PA youth survey that's given out every 2 years, I believe. And they kind of help break down all the data, identify what issues are kind of plaguing the youth, and try to figure out a plan of how to support youth and breaking down those negative factors and things they're experiencing. But anyway, she's part of that. She's also part of a smaller group called Faith's House of Hope. And it's her and I believe 3 other ladies that also work in different human service organizations. They run a yearly gingerbread house decorating contest, and they put that on during our ICE festival here in Lewistown in December every year. And what they chose to do the previous year was all the money they collected from selling the gingerbread house decorating kits, they donated it to early intervention services in honor of the one lady's daughter, Faith. She actually had Down syndrome and had passed away, so they had given the money to benefit early intervention services. But this past year, they approached me and said, we would like to support your homeless pantry and the fund. So they actually worked with us. We did our typical dress down day with staff for homeless awareness, but we held a separate one in which we collected money to give to them to kind of help cover their initial costs in doing the contest. And then all the money they collected from the contest, they donated back to us. But they also wanted us to do some sort of event during the ice festival. So as people were going around looking at the sculptures, they're looking at all the gingerbread houses too, so that they can vote on which one they like the best. But they wanted to have some sort of activity there so that as people were passing by, you can do something for the kids. So I thought, okay, well, how are we going to do that? Well, we have a group at our high school called the Positive Vibes Group. They actually work with communities that care. And they typically do mental health awareness activities throughout the district. They do like a tie-dyed shirt event every year. They do like a button campaign, just different sorts of things to spread awareness about mental health, and also like Be Kind initiatives, things like that. And they actually volunteered to put on the activity. So they decided they were going to do a cookie decorating activity. And we were actually able to ask staff to get involved. We had staff, donate the Ziploc bags they were going to need, the icing, things like that. The teacher at the high school who has, runs the cooking classes, she had her kids bake all the cookies for the activity. So that was really awesome that we didn't have to worry about buying those or asking for those. The kids did all that. And then the Positive Vibes group, they actually set up the activity. As people passed by, they got to decorate cookies, and they also handed out flyers that I designed that have, the definition of McKinney-Vento, all the qualifying or precipitating events, and kind of a blurb about what my role is and what I help do in the district. And it also has data on there from the past several years, so people can see how many kids we've identified. Of that number, how many are girls versus boys? How many are at the elementary level versus the secondary level? How many are homeless because of eviction, domestic violence, whatever their precipitating event is, which I think is really helpful for people to see, just because, like I said, a lot of people don't know there is homelessness in the area. So for them, I think that's an eye opener to see, what is really causing it. In our circumstance, it tends to be eviction more than anything. And I think it kind of plays on the heartstrings too, because they don't often think of kids being homeless. So when they can see, of that number, X amount are in elementary school, that really brings it home for them and inspires them to want to help and make a difference, to do whatever they can to help the families.
I like that you collect all of that data and that you keep it together and that you use it, to both make the community aware and so that you have those numbers yourself. I think I'm not a data person, I'm not a numbers person, but I think it's so great that you have that. It's really helpful.
Yeah, I think it's been a really neat point. Like times I've gone out to churches or organizations to do presentations for them. It's nice to hand out because, of course, I think I'm explaining things well, but you get off on tangents and in your head, and I'm like, am I just blabbing? I don't know. And it's nice. I'm more of a visual person, so I like to be able to see those things. So it's a nice flyer to hand out to people. They can always refer back to it. And it just gives them that visual picture of like, oh, wow, there really are this many kids. And just puts more personalization to it, I think, and just spurs more conversations because, like I said, most don't even know what's happening. And that really opens their eyes, I think, to what's going on.
Do you have any advice for listeners who might be inspired listening to all of these amazing things that you do for your students and for the community that you think would be a helpful hint or helpful tips for what can help them maximize their efforts as liaisons?
I think really just getting the information out there any way you can is, the first step and the biggest thing you can do. Because like I said, from us just putting the information out there through a news article, I mean, that's what's really spurred all of that for us, because the community had no idea what was going on. It really inspired a lot of people to want to do something, and has been really helpful for me because I haven't, things have just fallen into my lap. I've been really blessed that people are just randomly calling, they're randomly sending checks, they're randomly dropping things off. and saying, I didn't know anything about this. What can we do to help? And being open to us doing presentations there. I've even given churches flyers to put up, like our posters we have that gives the definition of homelessness. They've been willing to put those in their churches and in different organizations around the area so that kids can see it outside of school. So really, yeah, just do whatever you can to get the information out there. Even if you can't get a news story in, just start Googling, the local churches in your area, start Googling some different businesses. Go to your local county offices, see if they'd be willing to put up the posters. Just getting that out there and putting your name out there as the liaison. That way people have a name and an email to go to if they think they might qualify. And putting it out there for your kids too. I always try to put an annual blurb in the kids' newsletters that get sent home from each school building, just to say what we have in the district and what we offer and what the definition is. Because, if the community isn't aware of a lot of it, I'm sure a lot of the families aren't either. So I try to do whatever I can to be as visible as possible. Just trying to reach out.
And like you said, Michelle, before that, when people think of the word homelessness, they think of sleeping on the bench or sleeping on the sidewalk or, so I like how you said that, just to increase the awareness of what homelessness can actually look like for those students, because it's not always black and white. It's not, so we always like to emphasize when we do our trainings that homelessness is not a one size fit all word. So I think that was, I like how you did mention that in the, like previously. So I think, obviously increasing that awareness and letting people understand that this is what homelessness can look like as well.
Yeah, I think not only for the community just being aware it exists, but like for the families, because oftentimes once, like I say, a family comes into our school buildings, we have a residency questionnaire that we have everybody fill out whenever they're enrolling, to check off, like, are you living doubled up with someone? Are you in a camper? Questions like that for us to realize, like, okay, they probably qualify. Sometimes in doing those, whenever we then reach out to the families to say, hey, you qualify for this, sometimes families even get kind of offended. They're like, well, I'm not homeless. Like I'm living with my aunt over here. And then, we have to explain to them, well, no, that's a different definition. I know you think homelessness is being out on the street and not having anywhere to go, but because you're living doubled up with someone or you're living in that camper over there, like, no, you really can qualify. And there's lots of things we can do to help you. So, just putting the word out there helps people all around the community, the students, the families. It's beneficial all around.
Oh, I'm sure. Because no one likes the word homeless. Obviously,
Right.
There's a stigma about it. Oh, no, I'm not homeless. Don't say I'm homeless. And it's like,
Right.
It just has a bad feel to the word. And it's like, okay, we're not saying that you're out on the street. We're just saying that
Right.
you're without a home, a stable home that's permanent, that's stationary, just like it says under the definition, fixed. So I know when you throw that word out, like, oh, so you're experiencing homelessness. No, I'm not. So it's, but again, I think just the stigma of the word draws people to kind of push away from, like, do not identify me as that.
Right. And we try to say, like, during your displacement, rephrase it, things like that, and try to tell them, this information is confidential. We're not sharing this with anyone. This is purely to make sure that you're identified appropriately and that you're getting everything that you have the right to receive, from your free meals to staying in the district of origin, getting transportation to and from school. If we can help set you up with other services, our social workers have been really great at referring them out if they need additional services that the district can't offer, or buying the supplies that they need. Our social workers are really great at buying kids eyeglasses, like making sure they get an eye exam, paying for those eyeglasses so that they can be successful in school. Just little things you wouldn't think of, even doing things to make sure that they can participate in extracurricular activities. We had a girl once that was playing the flute. So like she had to pay to rent the flute. And became homeless. And we said, well, we'll pay for the flute rental costs. Like, we don't want anything else you're experiencing to stop you from doing that. Or like paying for AP exams. Like, we don't want to stop your growth because of something you're experiencing right now.
Well, Michelle, we think that your efforts are incredible and that you have done above and beyond what we could possibly ask. And we are so thankful for both you and your community and all the hard work that you put in for our students to ensure that they both have support and a voice. And we also really appreciate you coming on today to talk to us about all of that.
You're welcome. I really appreciate you guys thinking of me and giving me a chance to showcase what we do here. I'm really, proud and blessed to be a part of the district and a part of this community. Everyone has been super supportive, and I hope to continue our efforts here and expand in the future, and just do what we can to help our families.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for coming on today, and please join us next time for another episode of McKinney-Vento Moments. I Will Be Your Voice.